What's good, YouTube? Welcome to another Pave Lover video. You know what I'm saying? You know we're finna get top tier edited content from my dog. We got how to write the second strongest and how not to. This is an excellent video for writers and those of you who want to better understand the anime that you watch, to better figure out why you enjoy it, why you may dislike it, and overall just interesting conversation. As always, gonna prefer a little like. As you can see, I got that bell turned on. Make sure y'all turn the bell on. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I find the content, I bring it to us to watch together. And yeah, let's get straight into it. Talk to me. Discord comment link down in the description below.
The Strongest is one of the most popular archetypes in all of anime and manga. But here's the thing.
Also, technically there has to be the strongest, because there's always the strongest and the weakest by default.
There's another type of character that doesn't get as much
GOAT.
hype, but is actually way more interesting.
Vegeta.
The second.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They got it right there. Yes, sir. I fuck with NG. I know him by first name. I fuck with NG heavy. He got two niggas up here. I fuck with Bakugo heavy. I can't wait to watch the new season. Holy fuck. They got me hyped. Renji is number 2. Guess. He gets hated on more than anything.
Sometimes these characters are so good that fans love them even more than the main guys.
No, they always will get more love than the protagonist because they get less screen time. Less screen time builds up the hype, and also for a lot of times, the main antagonist is supposed to be this like idealistic person a lot of times, while the second strongest is just a character. Like the main character has to push some type of narrative. Now the interaction between the strongest and the second strongest does push a narrative, like the interaction between Vegeta and Goku, one pursuing mastery or one trying to chase the other, not realizing his own greatness, still refusing to call himself the king of Saiyans, but the prince of all Saiyans, because he doesn't truly see himself as number one, but that also being a strength because he'll never become complacent. Also, this relationship between All Might and Endeavor, with Endeavor trying to force his kids to become the strongest, almost giving up on the race that he's been running his entire career, purely focused on strength, while one focuses on inspiring, right? Renji gets a bunch of L's, but still a W character. Exactly. And that ties us into Renji. He talks the talk, he walks the walk. He loses, but he stands on what he stands on. That is the purpose of that secondary character, of that deuteragonist, right? Even though you can't really argue him as deuteragonist of Bleach. He's not there all the time. Bleach is very difficult to put a deuteragonist on it, but you know what I'm saying? Renji is there because he's human. He's supposed to be, as a Reaper, he's the most human of all the Reapers. Not just in terms of like instincts as a human, but comparing him to the average guy, he's the average guy. You know, he was locked into his training. He joined the school because the girl he loved joined the school. He started doing what he do. He served under a captain he admired, which happens to be the girl he loves, older brother. He's getting brownie points with the family is, right? Admiring her from a distance. And when the time comes to save her, he switches up and turns up. He turns his blade against the very man who inspired him in the only way he knew how, knowing it would end in defeat. Because I would rather fall down from the sky with melting wings of wax than never try to reach the sun. That is Renji Ibarra. To quote him directly, those who are not willing to sacrifice something important can never accomplish anything. It's like that, bro. L's aside, he's tough. To quote Endeavor, so then why you're number one? Every deuteragonist has their speech, bro. Said I want to give Vegeta what he said. You say I'm arrogant? I say damn right. What? I've entrusted everything into you. Find a way. Trespass into the realm. Like, what? Deuteragonists are like that.
But
they're very compelling.
They are just the worst, most forgettable characters in their series. So today, I'm going to take a bunch of these characters.
I do like Pave Lover exclusive. I challenge y'all to find this any video of his you watch. He puts the mic in a different place on a different figure each time. The last video we watched on Power Systems, was that Shonen Scopes video? It wasn't on Power Systems. It was the final arc of a series, defining his legacy. He had the mic behind Goku's head, and it looked like he has the mic on Gojo's hand.
Pair them and figure out what are the ingredients to make the perfect second
cooking up.
strongest.
He cooking
Number
up.
one.
Cooking up soup, man.
The second strongest character and the strongest character need to be connected. See, the second
Always.
strongest isn't just there to be another
I was just talking about that.
They're there to show what
a
the
relationship
strongest
there.
is missing. They're another piece of the puzzle that makes the entire story way cooler. And because of that, there's gotta be some sort of connection.
Yeah, it's two sides of the same spectrum. That's often what it is. It's like, though there's duality in character, they're a physical manifestation of sometimes the best traits of the protagonist, but also the things they don't have. Like Gojo is the strongest in his verse, and he is this calculating, cold person, but there's a warmth beneath that he can't show via fear. While Sukuna is a character, no spoilers, just off what we know about him, season 1, episode 1 of the series, he is a murderer. The first thing he says when he comes back into the body of a human is, "Oh man, where are the women and children? I want to terrorize people some more." He revels in this strength. Even though there is a layer of character under, he has enough self-reflection to go, I could have chosen a different path, but this is the path I wanted. I wanted to be the strongest. His name is a title given to him purely because he was the strongest. That's not his true name, right? There are those things. While Gojo's name defines him, you hear it all throughout the series. But that Satoru Gojo is different from the Satoru Gojo who's trying to protect the future, who has a desire to one day retire in a sense, right? They literally are like, literally supposed to be the same, a different side of the same coin. Because in actuality, as humans, we are all just different variations of the same person to some extent. And depending on where you line up on that list, you become more likable with certain people. But there's also aptitudes and ways you can build that character. Like Vegeta lashing out for Bulma. It shows my rage is still here. Vegeta, even Goku pointing the beam at not King Kai, but Supreme Kai, because he called Vegeta and Goku's squabble pointless. The same Goku that just said, "Yo, Vegeta, stop killing people," said, "Yo, you don't move, I'm gonna kill you." They're the same side of like, come on, bro. Natsu and Great, come on, bro. Y'all not ready for those conversations.
Two of them. That's what's going to make
I'm
the
gonna let him
second
talk.
strongest
I'm gonna let him talk.
super
I've been
interesting,
yapping.
but also different from the strongest. Let
Right.
me start with Suguru Geto from Jujutsu Kaisen.
Talk to me. Some shit he would listen to too.
In the beginning of the story,
Hating on
Geto
monkeys.
is the
My
partner
fault.
of another character called Gojo, as in the character who basically created the concept of
My
the
fault.
strongest. But here's the crazy part. These two started out pretty similar. Both elite students who were ridiculously powerful. But then, both of them fail a mission which completely breaks Geto's mind and he becomes the bad guy. Suddenly, they go from being best friends to enemies who
Complete
believe
opposites.
in completely different things. While Gojo wants
Are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo? Or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest? That is a direct parallel to Sukuna, if you couldn't tell. Are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest? Ryuma Sukuna is only Ryuma Sukuna because he's the strongest. He knows no other character but that. While Gojo is the strongest because he's Gojo. He was born that way. But his strength is something he created. If he wasn't the Gojo that he was, he wouldn't be the strongest. You can really analyze any piece of literature, bro. I'm
to fix
sorry.
the world,
Holy.
Geto wants to destroy it. He basically shows us what Gojo could have become if he went in a
Different
slightly
way.
different direction.
And they're down the same path,
Started
too.
The same,
Slight
experienced
detour.
the same stuff, but chose completely different ways to deal with it. That's
reality, bro.
and
That's life.
This is where I need to
Two
show you
koi
something really
fish.
cool. I think there are actually two completely different types of second strongest characters. First,
Okay.
you got guys like Geto or Endeavor from My Hero Academia. These dudes are
Facts.
chasing someone who's already the strongest. But then
Right.
you got a whole different category. Characters who are the
Woo!
second strongest
I saw my goat bond. I'm very happy.
someone who's trying to become the strongest. For example, in Dragon Ball,
Yes.
you have Vegeta and Goku. These two first meet
Yes,
as
sir.
enemies. I mean, Vegeta shows up to Earth and just wants to
Packs
straight
up Nappa.
destroy everything. But over time, they fight a bunch of people together, and Vegeta becomes Goku's rival. Now, here's what makes this relationship so interesting. Vegeta
Polarizing.
is a literal prince, while Goku is just, this low-class warrior who wasn't supposed to become powerful. And their personalities are also completely different, which makes them perfect mirrors of each other. When it comes to dealing
Yes.
with enemies, Goku's out there showing mercy and somehow finding the good in, everybody, even the worst
Literal
enemies. Meanwhile,
scum of the earth.
Vegeta kind of just wants to,
Fight.
destroy everything.
Yeah,
He
get
represents
this
the
over
path
with.
Goku could have taken if he'd been raised like him. Instead
Oh
of
my,
growing up
look
on-
at that
he represents
weave.
The path Goku could have taken if he'd been raised
Flip.
like him
That's-
instead of growing up on Earth with humans. That's
Shout out Grandpa
their
Ghost.
connection. Renji from Bleach is also one of the second type of second strongest characters. Just
Right.
like Vegeta, he starts off as an enemy, and in the beginning of the story, everything kind of pointed to him being the protagonist.
Well, I need pee. The tats go to lightning on the neck. Oh my god, he's so tough. He was always tough. Even though his hairline is fucked, just like Vegeta. Oh my goodness, his character design is
Main
tough.
rival. The beginning of Bleach made it clear that
Tats
Renji
to the
was
eyebrows,
supposed to
Nick.
be one of the most important people in the freaking
Oh,
story.
the lightning?
He
Oh my
did
god, this time. I'm sorry.
everything for it to happen. Even at the very end of the series, the author is still trying to convince us that Renji matters by putting him in important moments. But here's the problem. Unlike all the other characters I mentioned, Renji is just way too similar to the strongest character instead of being his opposite. Both of
Right.
these dudes are intense, determined, and good-hearted. After a while, they just become allies with basically zero meaningful
See, that's why,
conflict between them.
chat.
After a
The
while,
tats
they just
aren't
become
there.
allies with
They disappear. Like, it's there, but it's lower. I guess because of the angle we're looking at his face.
basically
But one of them frames look like it disappeared
zero
entirely.
meaningful conflict between them. And, sometimes they team up to fight the bad guys. So instead of getting a legendary rivalry that could have pushed both characters, we got a guy
Becoming
who was
stronger.
set up with huge potential to become a great second strongest, but ended up being a pretty
a regular
mediocre
guy.
rival who just
Yeah.
kind of disappeared. The best second strongest characters don't
Yeah, that's
just
why I wouldn't call
compete
him
with the strongest
strongest. I mean,
characters.
That's why, like, when he said second strongest to Renji, I was like, I mean, I guess.
Complete them. And once you establish that deep connection, it's gonna
There he goes. They complete them. They're not really there to
be
be.
there for the entire story.
And
Evolving
I think that's why he quotes second strongest. It's really just a deuteragonist here.
and changing as both characters
Almost.
grow, but always keeping that core.
Tech-
And that's beautiful. But
Allegedly.
creating that perfect connection is just the beginning. And that brings me to point number 2. A second strongest character needs to have some deep, messed up reason to get stronger. These second strongest characters
Yeah, it's
aren't
like
just
a slightly
competitive or
twisted
ambitious
version.
like regular people. They're damaged.
They have a
and
desire,
they usually
yeah.
have a very strong reason to become strong. This is what turns their simple ambition into complete obsession. Is the difference
And that's what anybody would tell you is how you become great. As a regular person, you watch the videos of the best at what they do, and they tell you, you got to be obsessed like me, bro. I'm not normal. I'm not human, right? That's what that second strongest is. They're literally a regular person who climbed their way up. It's just interesting to see. I mean, not regular human in conventional sense, but they're just a more relatable character who is meant to be more flawed, and that is what allows for the great development. While the main character, though having their flaws, is meant to be in your eyes like, oh, hold on, they're actually tough, or I might have done that too. While the secondary character is intentionally flawed yet still relatable, even though the choices and mistakes they make aren't the same ones you would.
between wanting to get stronger and needing to get stronger like your whole life depends on it? That damage is the thing that makes them willing to throw away everything just to beat the person in front of them. And it hits way harder when their reason for getting stronger is directly connected to the strongest character. Zoro from One
Right.
Piece is very different from all the other second strongest characters because of this reason. Back in the day when he
Okay.
was still a kid, he
Tell
had
me.
this friend called Kuina, right? They were both students in this
Unfortunately.
sword fighting school, and this
She's a great friend. It's not unfortunate, but what happened to her was unfortunate.
girl was straight up bodying him in every single sword fight. Her dream was to become the greatest swordsman. But then, out of absolutely nowhere, she had an accident and perished. And
I don't know if it's an accident or not. I hope so, because her character, at least in the anime, made it seem like an accident. But I've heard recently that It's actually common in Japan for the way they phrase kids committing essentially like seppuku, is them falling down steps. So she apparently died from falling down steps. That's what we know as the community, unless it's like a group Mandela effect. But allegedly that could be a metaphor for something else. And then if that's the case, it would explain why Zoro trains like hell even more so and wanted to take her blades to essentially accomplish her dream for her. Because she was forced, she was going to be forced to be probably married off to someone, and she doesn't have the natural physical strength of Zoro, but she has the technique of a swordswoman. She felt like she was in a cage, in a box. So if it was seppuku, it would narratively make sense. It's still an unfortunate thing to happen, but interesting tangent.
Just like that, Zoro decided to fulfill their dream of becoming the greatest swordsman for himself, but also in her honor. See, this man isn't trying to become the strongest, period. No, he's trying to become the world's strongest swordsman. But on top of that, he's also trying to help his friend Luffy become the strongest by being his right-hand man, kind of like his personal second strongest. Every single day this man wakes up and trains,
his training is nasty.
He's doing it for both of them. But then you also have second strongest characters like Geto who have, completely different reasons. When he was a student, my boy was a genuine hero.
Nasty.
He was out there saving innocent people from monsters, putting his life on the line every freaking day. But that was his problem. Remember the mission he failed that made him go completely crazy? The whole thing goes kinda like this. Gojo and Geto get assigned to protect this girl, but then this absolute menace called Toji shows up, and despite Gojo and Geto giving it everything they got, menace called Toji shows up, and
stabbed through the chest and still on timing, by the way.
Despite Gojo and Geto giving it everything they got, Toji straight up slays Riko right in front of him. In that moment, something snaps inside of Geto, and he slowly starts realizing that the people he was trying to protect don't care about him at all. And on top of that,
it's like, I have no reason to do what I was doing. I try to create a genuine connection. I'm protecting people. I'm the good guy, right? Where is this opposition coming from, and how did they get the better of me? He has no jujutsu. He has nothing. All he did was plot and scheme in the shadows. He's done nothing to help others but worry about his selfish desire, yet he won. Yet the one person other than my best friend I decided to give a piece of me was taken from me. And there's some twisted part of him that's probably like, if only Gojo was stronger. There's another part of him that's also like, he did everything he could. He worked his eyes to exhaustion. He almost passed out to protect this woman, to complete our mission. So it leaves the mind in a crazy state,
That he was doing one of the most dangerous freaking jobs you can imagine just to protect them. Everything this man believed is just thrown in the trash. After this mission, Gojo became absolutely overpowered, while Geto kinda stayed the same. This meant that he was constantly going on solo missions while Geto basically lost his closest friend while simultaneously losing his freaking mind. And all of that together was just too much. So he decided that the world had to change, and that's why he chose to betray everyone and become a bad guy, to destroy all the humans. That motivation to become stronger, or even the strongest, that's one of the things that makes these second strongest characters so freaking cool. And that brings me to point number 3. The second strongest character needs this constant back and forth with the strongest character. We need to feel like sometimes the second strongest is catching up a little bit. And maybe, just maybe, if they tried super mega hard, they could be the strongest. This is basically Vegeta's entire story in a nutshell. Let me show you. When he first showed up to Earth, my man was genuinely like the final boss. Goku couldn't really beat him, and it took nearly every single good guy to barely win against him. But then, in the next arc, Vegeta gets absolutely clapped by the main villain. Everyone thought this dude was special, but here comes Goku, who trains like crazy and saves the day. But after that, Vegeta trains, and for a good while, my boy was actually catching up to Goku. We get to the next arc, and my man gets destroyed again. And the cycle happens again.
Because he's trying to force it.
and again. Vegeta is basically the anime character that never becomes the strongest, but he just keeps trying over and over. And that's what makes this rivalry so perfect. After decades of this back and forth, neither one of these dudes feels left behind or, irrelevant. They keep finding new ways to push each other, new transformations, new levels. But to me personally, it's even more beautiful when the second strongest tries to beat the strongest with something else than just strength. When Gojo and Geto were students, they were, basically the same in terms of power. Both of them were special, both had some absolutely insane techniques.
And that's what Geto realized. Nobody's special.
And both were super smart. But then, after Gojo became, completely overpowered, Geto knew he couldn't just fight him. I mean, that would be kind of silly. But he didn't stop trying. Instead, this man became a master of strategy, where he was always thinking 10 moves ahead. And that's how he managed to outsmart Gojo a couple of times. Similarly, Endeavor has incredible abilities, but he still can't touch All Might's level. All Might is basically the strongest in My Hero Academia. So what did he do? He met with this lady who had an ice power, and he married her for one reason only. To create the...
That tie was actually tough. I like the fire at the bottom. Hold on.
Lady who had an ice power.
Oh, that tie is so fire. I'm sorry, but that's tough.
And he married her for one reason only. To create the perfect baby who could beat All Might. They ended up having 4 kids that Endeavor treated like literal science experiments just so that one of them could have this perfect fusion between fire and ice.
Mind you, you don't need this fusion to be better than this. You're number 2 right now. So if any of them were just born with a stronger version of your quirk, bro, they could have beat that. Mind you, All Might's eventually gonna go out his prime, bro. He's not gonna be around when they're hooping. You just needed to make them stronger. That's it. Yeah. I'm mad strong. I didn't have a good foundation. Let me give my kids a good foundation, a good education. They're going to be number 1 one day. But no, let's rush.
Powers. I love these 2 examples because they show you how desperate these second strongest characters can be. They know they can't be the strongest with pure strength, so they start pulling all these crazy, desperate tactics instead, which almost, makes you feel bad for them. But then we have Renji. And listen, the first time we meet him, this was actually giving the main character Ichigo problems. My boy had training, experience, he knew how to use his powers properly. He basically had everything experience, he knew.
See that scar on his chin? Ichigo gave him that shit, though.
How to use his powers properly.
He did what he needed to do.
Had everything Ichigo didn't at that point. But then, after this fight, Ichigo's powers grow like crazy, while Renji gets stuck at this basic level. He loses miserably against this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, and so much more. After the beginning of Bleach, he loses pretty much every single one of his fights. Also, I just want to put this out there, but maybe it's not a coincidence that these 2 have the same hairline. I'm just saying, if the strongest character is always way stronger than the second strongest without any effort, then the rivalry is boring.
It becomes uninteresting.
When that power balance starts shifting, when sometimes the second strongest actually starts winning, that's when they're the most interesting. Number 4. Becoming stronger needs to freaking destroy the second strongest character. Here's the thing.
There's
the
like a catalyst to it.
Just get stronger like it's nothing. But the second strongest, these dudes need to suffer for every bit of power they get. They should pay a big price for that strength, whether it's their relationships, their health, or their freaking minds. The best second strongest characters sacrifice something genuinely important in their desperate chase for
It means
power.
something to them.
These costs need to feel like natural consequences of the choices they're making. The best examples show you how that obsessive pursuit of power can affect pretty much every other aspect of their life. Weirdly enough, My Hero Academia did an amazing job with both of its second strongest characters. For example, the main guy's rival is this dude called Bakugo. And the most obvious way he destroyed his life is what he did to his friendship with the main character, Deku. These 2 could have been really good friends. They grew together, they both loved heroes, all that good stuff.
They idolized the same guy.
Always wanted to stay on top, and that turned him into someone horrible. He was pretty much mean to Deku during their entire childhood. There's a scene pretty late in the series where he apologizes for treating him so badly during all these years. He admits that he always felt like Deku was ahead of him, and that he wanted to feel superior by making fun of him. He admits that every day he felt weak, and that he believed Deku was much stronger than him. He felt awful for all these years, but the truth is, he kind of did it to himself because he wanted to be the strongest so bad. For Endeavor, remember how I told you he turned his entire family into a freaking science experiment? First, he had his kids called Fuyumi and Natsuo, who were basically ignored. I mean, they weren't useful for his plan, so he just pretended they didn't exist. Then his wife Rei got so broken down by this horrible life that they had to put her in a freaking hospital for years.
Nasty
Then
work,
came
bro.
Shoto, who had exactly what Endeavor
L
wanted, the
husband.
perfect blend of ice and fire powers.
How you an L husband and an L father, bro? Pick one, bro.
So Endeavor put him through brutal training from the time he could barely walk. He banned Shoto from playing with his siblings and basically stole his entire childhood just to create his personal machine. And finally, his first kid, Toya,
The
who
GOAT.
had this insane firepower, but because of his weak body, he literally couldn't handle the heat. So what did Endeavor do? He labeled him a failure and just,
Mind you, we're living in a world with supportive gear that can improve quirks, that can fill in these gaps as your quirk leaves. There's no reason it couldn't have worn some type of gel, some type of protective suit. You know what I'm saying? There's so many routes that could have went with this.
abandoned him. But then Toya
Could have made a team combo, him and one of his siblings that has ice abilities. It would have been like a duo hero John.
got so desperate for his dad's attention that he destroyed his entire body training with the power he couldn't handle. Realized how terrible his dad was and became a villain just to slay him. So, sure, Endeavor kind of managed to get what he wanted, but in exchange, he basically destroyed his entire family and his entire life. Weirdly enough, I also think Zoro destroyed his entire family and his entire
Why am I gonna arm?
life. Weirdly enough, I also think Zoro is a super underrated example of this that I never hear people talk about. If you know anything about One Piece, it's that the main character Luffy is super goofy, but he's also the captain of all the other main characters, including Zoro.
That's what made Zoro such a compelling character. His like kind of like IQ and his like knowledge about pirates, despite him being a pirate hunter and a swordsman who is a character like that's a title one holds in a dignified manner. You wouldn't associate them with a pirate, yet he's the glue, and I fucked with that.
Zoro. And because of all that goofiness, you slowly see Zoro become more and more serious throughout the series. He becomes colder and has to make these difficult decisions to help his captain become the king of pirates. It's a
Captain he
subtle
wants
change,
to
but it's
be.
a sacrifice he has to make to become stronger and to achieve his dream. And I think that's beautiful. These sacrifices aren't just great character development. They're exploring what happens when wanting to be the strongest becomes more important than everything else
Breath
that
itself.
should have made life worth living. That's why you'll always hear people say they liked the strongest characters when they were younger, but started loving the second strongest characters when they got older. It's for this exact reason. People start appreciating the harsh truths and the tragic stuff that these characters bring to the story.
I fought with the secondary characters from the beginning, gang. I ain't
And
gonna
that
lie.
brings me to the final point. Number 5. A second strongest character has to evolve, baby. Listen,
The GOAT.
the best and strongest characters aren't just there to make the strongest characters look good. These characters actually need to grow and transform throughout the story, dealing with whatever thing made them obsessed in the first place. The
Side
writers that
eye
we actually
Doom.
remember years later, they're the ones who have those life-changing moments where they finally figure out what real strength
Ooh, W can
actually
impact frames. I need to get back into my
truly are
hero.
underneath all that rage and obsession and what's genuinely worth fighting for. This transformation can go in a couple of different directions, which is what makes it so interesting. For Vegeta, there's a moment in Dragon Ball where he finally said the words that had been on his mind for years.
You're better than me, Kakarot. You are the best.
Now, you might think that that sounds like defeat, but that was freedom.
No.
This man had
Yeah,
been
that's
carrying around
acknowledgement,
this pain
bro.
for so long, feeling bad about
I don't need to train to become better than you. I need to train to become better than me I was a couple seconds ago, bro. I need to train to achieve actual mastery. Because when I didn't, I unlocked a bulkier form of Super Saiyan and got my ass whooped, right? When instead I could have honed the power far greater by tapping into mastery, but I wanted to do something on my own. I wanted something of my own. So any sign of progress, though detrimental it was, I saw as a sign I could potentially be better.
the fact he never became number 1. And finally admitting the truth set him free from all that. He still has that pride, he's still competitive, he's still driven to get stronger. The difference is that now all that energy is going to something
Fueled,
better.
yeah.
Bakugou literally went from being Deku's biggest
Focused.
hater to becoming his ultimate partner. The real transformation happened after his apology. During the final arc of My Hero Academia.
So
when
tough.
Bakugou
Spoiler of
swore
doom.
to
Spoiler of doom.
support and
Spoiler.
protect Deku instead of trying to one-up him. And when this man was willing to sacrifice his life to save Deku,
Did y'all hear that? I think someone just hit a gambling parlay, one of my sweet mates.
that's when you knew
I heard
that
it through my
Bakugou was
headphones, so I
completely
figured
wrong.
y'all
He went
could
from
hear
seeing him as a threat to wanting him to succeed. He went from doing everything on his own to accepting the help of other people. When Endeavor finally gets that #1 hero spot, he feels
means
like he
nothing.
can actually achieve anything. This man just knows he can't undo the horrible stuff he did to his family. He can't bring back the years of pain. But instead of feeling bad and making excuses, he decides to become someone worthy of forgiveness, even if that forgiveness never comes. The most powerful part of Endeavor's evolution is that he accepts that the damage can't be repaired. He's not out here expecting his family to forgive him or his reputation to be restored. He's not looking for a happy ending where everything goes back to normal. Instead, he's focused on being better going
Becoming
forward,
better,
understanding
yeah.
that redemption is something you have.
Because even if you're truly looking for redemption, you don't apologize because you want people to forgive you, because you want to no longer be seen as someone who made a mistake. You apologize because you realize you made a mistake and the only path left is forward, so you don't continue making such mistakes. If you come with the approach of, I'm only doing this for someone else's attention, you'll never be satisfied. And that's why a hollow desire to be #1, like he had, that had no meaning behind it, similar to Vegeta wanting to become the strongest originally, was purely from a prideful standpoint that I think this means something and I want that. That was the shortcoming. And only in realizing that there's something better I can attach this to, there's a meaning that this holds beyond the physical and the easily seen, do they set themselves free.
To earn. And Renji, I guess he gets a new haircut?
He gets married, but sure.
Yeah, second strongest characters aren't always going to check every single one of these boxes, but having at least some of these elements is what separates the forgettable ones from the characters that might actually be more interesting than the
Facts.
strongest.
Tough video from the GOAT, Pave Lover. Appreciate y'all boys for watching. As always, stay happy, healthy, and hydrated, and you know what time to catch me next. Peace.